Hello, hello, hello. I am Grum, coach and general manager of your Philadelphia T-Tars and your season analyst for the BBRD League Season 3. Welcome to another edition of my analysis of the BBR. We're going into Week 2, but before we do that, let me just take you over Week 1's results in the form of my predictions, where it didn't go quite great for me. I started 0-3. But thankfully, I had a strong second half of the slate, and I finished with a 5-4 record on the week. So not too bad. Not too bad if I say so myself. We're just getting started here in the BBR. Week 1 of 8 down in the books. We're into Week 2, and teams already feeling the pressure of their rosters and of the competition. We had a lot of 4-0 victories, so a lot of kind of matches that make you go, maybe I don't have the teams. But that's the thing. There's 7 more weeks. There's 8 total weeks, but 7 more weeks. Plenty of time to figure out exactly what you want to go for. There's a lot of good Pokemon out there and a lot of time left. Although you can blink and you're going to miss it. So just don't blink. Just don't blink. Keep your eyes peeled. Just peel your eyes back. Just peel your eyes back like you're in the Clockwork Orange. Just peel them back. Anyways. Enough about that. Let's get into our Week 2 previews. We're going to start at the top of the slate, as we always do, this week with Seattle and Carolina, which on paper looks like Seattle has the better of the matchup here. But look a little deeper, and you'll see that might not be the case. Taking a look at Seattle's side of things, Infernape looks really good, as the only fire resist on Carolina's team is Incineroar, who also happens to be weak to fighting. So last week it was defensive and still kind of offensive. I'm going to be interested to see if Dashing makes a full offensive set here. But Terra Necrozma is really good in this matchup as well. It can lean on Thundurus and Infernape to deal with Corviknight. Otherwise, giving it a ground or a flying type can not just give it coverage, but also let it have some defensive longevity in this matchup. Defensively, it's a good matchup overall, but Seattle's going to need Galarian Weezing to really help with that Galarian Zapdos. Otherwise, that's going to be a problem. And Apollyon, that can help with the Ogerpon. It can help with Kyurem. But it will struggle if it's the only thing that he has got for both of them. So he's going to have to figure that out, Dashing well. And the winning Pokemon, the winning Mon, I think you really got to just get heavy usage out of Infernape this week. Last week, you built more of a defensive one. Encore, Rocky Helmet, Slack Off. But just, it's going to need a little bit of help, especially against the Ogerpon. And Sandy Shocks could be a problem if it's like a defensive, or not defensive, but a speedy booster set. But... And I don't know. I just expect Thundurus to help out both that and the Necrozma, but boy, that Infernape looks really good this week. I would be shocked if Dashing does not put an offensive one, whether it's to break or to close out. Looks really good. Really, really good this week. On Carolina's side of things, taking a look here, I mentioned it in Seattle's defense a little bit, but Galarian Zapdos' matchup is just so tasty. It's so numptious. It needs some help with the Thundurus and Galarian Weezing, but it has the stab coverage as well as the stabs in general to do really good damage against Seattle this week. And I struggled to find a second Pokemon that had an obviously good matchup this week. But despite that fact, Kyurem does have a decent matchup. It's a Kyurem. That's gonna be kind of the case all the time, but it could be walled by an Empoleon decently. It'll also struggle against the Weezing if it has if it's a physical and it has Levitate ability, and even Necrozma, man. That Necrozma could really do serious problems against it. So it's not really a great offensive matchup for Carolina this week. But while it looks like it struggles, I talked about Incineroar. I think Intimidate is really good usage this week, and it has Parting Shot to really get out of dodge. Boots, parting shots, and maybe even a fake out to get some chip. We kind of saw that in the Who and TJP matchup where you chip with a fake out, get on out. Chip with especially with a Pokemon with Intimidate, it is really good synergy because you can come in, lower the attack, go for a fake out, and then leave. And then you could repeat this process, chip things down, and as long as you have some of the defense. And really, Corviknight is really good pairing with that. It has pretty good defensive matchup this week, and it can also get like a roost off, so like it pairs well with taking a hit off that Incineroar parting shot. Easy peasy, very good. And I think it's like pretty solid against the Ursaluna Blood Moon, so that'll help its overall value this week. The winning Pokemon, it's just too good of a matchup for me not to say that Galarian Zapdos is the win mon for here. It can either go Breaker or, and allow Ogerpon and Kyurem to come in and clean up, or it can just it can do the inverse, right? It can just, chip away with some Scarfs, U-turns, and let the teammates set it up to come in and just clear a house with Scarf close combats or Brave Birds. Either way, really good matchup for the Galarian Zapdos this week. But I just like Dashing's team a little bit more this week than Shadow's. I know I said it looks like a really, in the beginning of this preview for this matchup was like, oh, maybe it's not as good as on paper as it is, or I should say, it's not as good when you look deeper than it looks on paper, but it still is in favor of Dashing. I just think Shadow's team has a really bad Infernape matchup this week, and that's a Pokemon that can creep on you and sweep. But I do think if Shadow comes out aggressive in this matchup, it would put Dashing on the back foot a bit, and I think that's where Shadow can get out in front and hold on. And I know it sounds like I'm covering my ass on the prediction, but I am, because I'm not a fool. But I do have Dashing getting the win here, and that's the official prediction. I'm stamping into it. Dashing Sceptile will get the win this week. Up next, we have the Hamilton Torracats taking on the Cleveland Guardians. And let me tell you right now, these are two of my favorite teams, two of my favorite coaches, and they both have a tough matchup this week. So let's get into it, starting with Hamilton here. Offensively, it is a tough matchup for Jarl. And not really, it says it more than like Palossand being your best offensive matchup. When you're relying on that Pokemon for your best offensive matchup, it's just because Bope has a very balanced team that doesn't have a lot of holes. But the stab coverage for ground and Ghost kind of lets the castle kind of have a favorable matchup if it can take the hits. Unfortunately, that's kind of where you're leaning it to. I do think that Noivern could surprise people, including Bope, in this matchup. Skarmory resists both of its stabs, but a special attacking Noivern threatens it with a flamethrower just all the time. And also being the fastest Pokemon in this matchup, very big value. You can never overvalue having the fastest Pokemon in a matchup. Defensively, though, it's a lot on the board to consider. The best way for Jarl, though, to tackle this matchup defensively is to rely heavily, and I mean heavily, on that Heatran and Florges to deal with Tera Chi-Yu. Flash Fire for Heatran and just special bulk for Florges. It should allow Jarl enough turns to deal with it and force it out. Depending on what the Tera is for Chi-Yu. I don't think there's one Tera that deals with both of it, but obviously a Tera that can deal with one of them will be very beneficial. And I do think Hisuian Samurott or Quillfish has to come as a bulky water type in this matchup to deal with Greninja, and also put up hazards to support the team, which normally I'd consider that more of an offensive aspect, but defensively, it helps the hazards minimize switching, which helps the other side. It helps when the other side has such really, really good threats like the Tera Chi-Yu. And you might notice I didn't list Tera Ogerpon in this spot, either offensively or defensively, making it among the first time. I think Iron Moth was the other one. The only other time I didn't talk about it, and obviously Iron Moth came week 1 for Pup and did strong there, but for good reason, man. This is a horrible matchup for Tera Ogerpon. But if Jarl is insistent on bringing it, he's going to need Heatran really to help in a big way, especially with the Skarm. Especially with the Chi-Yu. I think Heatran is really the Pokemon to build around. I think the performance is strongly in the hands, or feet, or paws. Look, the success for Jarl this week is firmly on the back of Heatran's defensive performance this week. That is the Pokemon who is the key to victory. Looking at Cleveland's side of things, Tera Chi-Yu. That's all I got to say. Okay, I can't keep just glossing over it every week, though. I gotta cut it out like now. But how good does Tera Ground Chi-Yu look this week? Think about it. Look at that team and tell me how good it looks. I know it looks great. And look, if you want to look somewhere else, look at the big round boy, the big rotund man, the robot with hands, Iron Hands. He's going to really appreciate this matchup, as only Palossand can consistently answer it. And he doesn't even appreciate the most commonly used, coverage move of Ice Punch on Ice Hands. So, Iron Hands. Ice Punch on Iron Hands. I guess it would be Ice Hand. Either way. Choice Band or Assault Vest, which is, basics Iron Hands kind of stuff there. Both of those item choices will go far in helping Iron Hands punch through and set up Chi-Yu and others for the win. Bope has a lot going offensively against Jarl's team. Defensively, it's better not to look behind the curtain. Just don't look at it. It's got a horrid team special defense stat, and with 3 Mons being over 80, just 3 Mons, over 80 base special defense. It's Team AV though. Swampert Assault Vest will help a lot, checking Thundurus, Florges, and even Cobalion. Very good there. And I mentioned Skarmed as a check for Ogerpon, but don't overlook Sapsip or Azumarill, who can not only just serve as an assist with that, but also some other attackers like a Noivern, like a Heatran, Samurott, Cobalion as well. This is Azumarill could be a very good defensive Pokemon this week for Bope. I think, though, it's always fun to build around the slower, bulkier attacker. Personally, I like that. Iron Hands fits that perfectly. But I think using Terra Chi-Yu early and often, and either Skarm or Glimmora as hazard supporters would go a long way in helping Iron Hands be a win con this week. Now, my prediction is going to be a fun one. That's what my prediction is. Both teams kind of have a bad defensive matchup this week. Not great one, at least. Hamilton has their struggles relying on a consistent chip and momentum. Cleveland struggles versus special attackers. I'm going to find it hard to pick, confidently. Probably not as hard, though, picking against a team with Terra Chi-Yu, even if that fish burned me this past year, last season. I didn't pick last week because I said there was an Earthworm there. This week, you got a Chi-Yu and an Iron Hands being a bit of a problem for Jarl. I think Bope and the Cleveland Guardians get a hard-fought, close victory this week to even up their record at 1-1. Our third game of the week will see Soul Blaze and the Oslo City Dragon Dancers taking on CJ Jensen and the Phoenix Incineroars, which should be a fun game with interesting builds supporting each team's Terra Captain. Taking a look at Oslo City here, Raging Bolt is consistently and constantly going to be a good Pokemon every week for Oslo City, thanks to being Terra Captain. But I think this week more than most, it's the team prep aspect of it, because there's so many good Terra options this week. Flying and Fire can be both defensive this week and offensive, while Fairy and Ground are just pure offense, all gas, no brakes, especially Terra Ground, as it lets it deal the best checks CJ has for Raging Bolt stabs, but it's just a real problem for CJ building his team to deal with a threat like this. We saw it last week with Vortex being like, oh crap, what do I, literally the title of the video was, what do I sack to Terra Raging Bolt? And that's really good. And last week was a good Medicham, ended up being a solid Medicham week. This week, I really like Medicham even before seeing the final 6. It's got an exploitable matchup against fighting types, plus the team defense, the physical defense of Phoenix is lower than its special defense, and that adds up kind of to a favorable matchup. Plus, Raging Bolt and other special attackers will draw so much attention this week. I think Medicham can just kind of come in and clean up after them. Just easy stuff. Defensively, Colossal is a very important in this game because Flame Body, as well as it knowing Will-O-Wisp, can really hamper the physical attacker that CJ has loaded the team with. You got your Zarudes, you got power on that side of things. I don't think hazards are really the biggest threat this week, so you can probably forego spin and get an extra attacking move or an extra status move. I think Oslo, though, needs to find some special bulk sooner rather than later, as the team just cannot continue to rely on Klefki's screen support week in and week out. We didn't really get to see a punishing a bit of that, but that Seed Flare against the Raging Bolt last week was just kind of a teaser, and if Oslo City doesn't address that, it might be a problem soon. But it's hard to look at Oslo's team and see who's going to be taking a special hit. I want to legitimately say, though, that this Pokemon's the win mon this week for Oslo is Medicham. It would be hilarious if that's the case. It's Terra Raging Bolt this week. Getting that Pokemon in the right Terra type in the build will be a very big win for Oslo, especially if it runs opposite of CJ's build for it. It's just, do you want to be offensive as hell or just kind of both offensive and defensive? I do think Medicham, though, will help this week as it did last week. But I think Terra Raging Bolt for sure is the win mon this week. Taking a looking at Phoenix's team, boy, if I was Flygon, I'd be foaming at the mouth right now. I literally just took a drink of water, otherwise I'd commit to the bit a little bit more. But there is no consistent check for that Flygon, and it doesn't matter. It could really thrive off of going like a throat spray, boom burst, or bug buzz to set up its special attack to where you can get a Draco, or you can get Earth Power, or even just rely on Dragon Pulse. It's so good this week. It looks really good this week. So does Terra Zarude, especially if CJ runs Terra Fire on it this week, so it can hit Klefki and Fortress hard and for super effective damage. Defensively, I am one of Muck's biggest fans because I am also one of Swalot's biggest fans, and Muck is just a better Swalot. This week, up against tough Raging Bolt matchup, a bulky Spadef invested Muck is one of the more reliable checks, aside from Belly Bolt, who could be another option there. And I think this is going to sound weird, but I'm probably going to do this again later, not just like later next week, but also in this video. Weavile is a good defensive Pokemon this week. Hear me out, okay? Give me your ear. It's not defensive in the word defense. It is defensive in the idea of being a deterrent. Gengar, Landorus, Prankster, Klefki, and even Rillaboom all do not want to deal with this thing, right? They don't want to. It won't switch in, right? But you got to be worried about, if the Klefki goes for a Thunder Wave, we're gonna get Weavile in there. Landorus, you got to consider, is a kill worth losing progress, or am I giving up something by bringing in Gengar and opening up Weavile? I think that just being there strong enough for the Weavile there. As good as Flygon looks, it's Zarude. That is the Pokemon that unlocks CJ's game this week. Couldn't get it going early enough against Dashing, and by the time he got it out there for a Terra Poison and setting up, too far behind, and ultimately didn't get the amount of work you would like to get from it. And depending on the Terra type, though, right, asterisk, whatever, there's potential here that is too large to ignore. I'm going to look. I've been back and forth on this matchup. I think more in like writing all this stuff up. I just think it comes down to the Terra captains, right? Does Raging Bolt go full offensive in a way that the Muck or the Belly Bolt can't deal with, or does Zarude get the right Terra type? Right? Is Zarude your answer to the Raging Bolt? That's playing a lot of like if this then that, but also before the game even starts. I do think though that CJ has enough to deal with Raging Bolt this week, and the team, and I think CJ gets the win here. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe for more stuff, and make a note, Saturday, 9 p.m., that is Saturday the 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing the watch along for week 2. We did it for week 1. It ran a little long because we were doing the GM survey stuff. This week, though, is straight games, good times, good vibes. Come on, hang out. We have a good time. That is here on YouTube. I was about to say on Twitch, but here on YouTube and on Twitch. I'm live on both places. So if you're watching this and you are more of a Twitch live viewer, you're good there. Go on there, and I'll be there. Twitch.tv/tgrum, or here on YouTube where you're already watching this. Just make a note of it. I'm sure there might even be an event thing somewhere here maybe to click on. Up next, we've got Mario and Muffins taking on each other. The Muffins Mudkips taking on the Montebello Mexica. 2 teams with some serious special attackers and a daunting physical threat behind it. Starting things off with the Mudkips. Offensively, if I'm Muffins, I am bringing Terra Ground, Terra Steel, or Terra Rock Annihilate this week. I'm flat out ignoring every other option. I'd rather just not take that Sand Chip. We saw what it did week 1 with the King Gambit as it losing its immunity and going Terra Fairy and suddenly getting chipped and losing progress to the Zapdos. Don't want to see that happen again. You can wear safety goggles to get around that, but I'd rather have the freedom of like leftovers, choice band, whatever. Also, adding Magmortar and Dragalge to list of Pokemon, it would hit super effectively with one of those types. Okay, just hear me out there. Also, what I'm going to say is I'm half joking, okay? And I understand part of this is because I want to see it, and I may or may not have wagered myself, really. But Cramorant could do significant damage this week. It's a plus matchup for the water flying type. It outspeeds more than half of Montebello's team. Muffins could cook up a fun set and show off the power of the bird. I did tell Muffins if the bird gets into the top 10 kills, Moolah is coming their way. So have I put out a bounty? Perhaps. Does that make me a bad person? Maybe. I don't know. It's it's good content, I think. Defensively though, Sinistcha could be a problem for Muffins. I gotta move this so I stop hitting this. It can be a problem for Muffins. It can eat hits and get set up and cause issues. But thankfully for Muff, the best check in the game for Sinistcha is Arboliva, who helps deal with Clefable as well, thanks to its special bulk. Also, having that Seed Sower for Earthquakes from the Excadrill, very, very important. And Mario has a hell of a team that loves to clean up after Sandchip, whether it's Excadrill or Urshifu. And while there's not a single Mon that can deal with both, Diancie is one wall that doesn't mind the sand. In fact, it appreciates it. It gets a special defense boost. And it does get a little bit of... It doesn't want to take any steel-type moves, but Urshifu is going to struggle against it, and that might be better for the Mudkips in the long run. I just think, though, Annihilate, very good in this matchup, but for the win, it's really Annihilate. They've got to put the Annihilate... The win's going to have to come up to Annihilate getting like 3 or 4 knockouts this week. Otherwise, I think Muffins struggles in this matchup, but we haven't gotten to the preview on the other side of the things yet, but let's do that. Let's talk offensively about the Montebello Mexica. If Excadrill wasn't a Terra Captain, I would still say that this matchup is one of the ones where it's better suited as a hazard control mon, but the fact that it can tear into it like a type that deals with multiple ground immunities and flips the matchup for it entirely. Terra Rock, Terra Ghost, very good. I think obviously those are the two best Terras. But hear me out again. Terra Dragon in this matchup. I just put just ignore, that Latios can't outspeed max speed Adamant Excadrill in the sand. Just think about that. Scarf Latios cannot outpace that Pokemon in the sand. So Terra Dragon, and then you can hit you deal with you get your defensive properties from that a little bit, and then you smack this thing around. And Diancie goes down to Iron Head with ease. That's where I'd start cooking this matchup. But the one thing that I think that Mario really needs on this team is a water type, because it would be great to have one here. It's not even a defensive thing. Offensively, you could have a water type here. It could still be Excadrill, but you're just gonna have to be like like pity party for Mario here. You just got to rely on Urshifu Single Strike. Since you don't have a water type, you just got to deal with that and rely on that and its immense power, because outside of pre-Terra Annihilate, there's nothing that would take a single Wicked Blow or like close combat. Like you're either weak to that, weak to one or weak to the other, except for like Diancie. But I guess, yeah, Urshifu will have to do Woe is Mario, or is it more like Whoa Rio? Defensively, Latios can be a problem even with Clefable on the team, so that's why I think Tyranitar is big this week. Not just because of Latios, but also Kilowattrel, Delphox, Salazzle. All of them do not like T-Tar in this matchup. It's a big week for support T-Tar, as the Rock typing can also give it a huge contribution on offense. And joining Tyranitar as a defensive Pokemon with some potential offensive, I still think you could see a little bit from Zapdos this week. Shout out Grandmaster D-Ray's Zapdos from UNPL Season 5, though. that put fear in my heart and the hearts of many. That static luck and just general bulk is going to be needed in a big way against Annihilate, as well as Crocodile, who can find a path in this matchup as well. Defense wins championships, though, or at least a week 2 game, and I think Tyranitar is going to be the win mon for Mario. The sand support, the potential rocks, the defensive matchups. It's all good for the T-Tar this week. Sounds good to me, but it does set up the team for victory. I think, importantly, in a big way, more important than normal. You know, obviously last week 5 kills. I think it got technically only one of Excadrill's 5 kills were a field assist, an assist from T-Tar. If you don't know what that is, you can go watch the stream and I go into them a little bit in full detail. But an assist simply is a field effect or clearing the field of hazards to help your teammate succeed. And in this case, Tyranitar giving the speed boost for Sand Rush by activating the sand for Excadrill. Any kill it would get on a kill that it outspeeds a Pokemon that it wouldn't have outsped without the sand. That is what an assist. Very simple. Think of it, like a regular sports assist, like a hockey assist, where you're passing them the ball, passing you the conditions you need to get the kill, and the next turn you're out, kind of thing. Enough about that, though. Prediction-wise, I think Muffins is set up against a very hard matchup this week. Excadrill can do massive damage. Urshifu loves this team defense stat of 81, the Mudkips have. But Muffins doesn't have the ingredients needed to bake up a win. I just don't think there's enough time in Hell's Kitchen for the Mudkips this week, and Mario will get the win. But man, if that Cramorant comes in and he starts getting some kills, we gotta have to start talking about my influence. Following that one, we've got the Decidueyes, the Drunken Fist Decidueyes taking on the Twinite Night Slashers, and my heart is being pulled in 2 directions with these teams. I love the roster that Professor has, and I love Krep's Blender Magic. Again, go watch that. I'm going to put it right here before the thing. Just go watch. Look at that. Look at that Weezing. Look at the Weezing. Look at it. Come on. All right, bring up the stats. Look here. We're going to talk about let's talk about the Decidueye here. Another matchup, another Tornadus T game where it goes crazy. The only glaring weak spot of Twinites is a weakness to the flying type, with only Iron Crown resisting it. So, you can just double up on that flying stab or look to deal with the Iron Crown with a ground or a fire type. Either one will work. Very good Tornadus game. Raikou also looks good here. A great speed, a good speed stat at 115. Has it higher than all of the team on the slashers, so that's pretty good. It's the best option for the team to even break Melodic, which would open things up for the likes of Tornadus and Urshifu as well. I see Moxie, Salamence, and Speed Boost Blaziken on the other side, and I say, ha, Petron, come here, pal. Salamance's Terra type could work against the Petron here, but Blaziken's going to struggle against this Corrupted Berry no matter what, and that is a big success for Petron and for Professor here. And I expect to see Kamala this week, as its good bulk is very good, but the Comatose ability is going to prevent Superior and Umbreon from spreading like a Glare or a Toxic, and it can also check the Hisuian Zoroark as well. I think this week Professor just has to not really throw it out against the thing it's supposed to check right away. That's it. That's all you got to do. And I just think I don't know. For as far as like win mons, I don't know how many weeks I can go and not like, I don't know how many weeks I can't say that it's a Tornadus T week, but it is a Tornadus T week this week. It just looks so good in this matchup. It just needs a little bit of support to chip the Iron Crown and Melodic, and it is running wild, brother. That thing is going crazy. Taking a look at Twinite, Salamence just looks like a cool Pokemon, right? It's timeless, no matter how derpy its wings look. It's cool, and in this matchup, it's gonna wear a cool hat because no matter this, it's a joke for me to set up that it's gonna be an Ice Terror. I think it just looks really, really good. Ground and flying look good too, but Ice gives it the move that it needs to hit the Tinglu for super effective damage, and that cannot be overlooked. And Blaziken is a fraudulent Pokemon, but that doesn't change the fact that firefighting is a pretty good matchup offensively for them. It hits the Decidueyes neutrally with its stabs. The only downside, though, is the lack of power it has. So if you're going to try to be a breaker, it's not going to be breaking as strongly. And if you want it to be a cleanup, a setup cleaner, it's going to require that setup, and even that might not get it done, which isn't great, but it's still a solid matchup for the Blaziken. What I want to know, though, is how you guys think about the special defense that the Twinights have. Between Umbreon, Melodic, Alchemy, Iron Crown, there's enough to deal with this Tornadus and the Raikou. Especially the Umbreon, who can Wish Pass and keep some of these walls up while also giving like Salamence some longevity as well. Also, Donphan, I think, really is underrated. It somehow gets kind of passed over for other spinners and other ground types, despite just being a powerhouse, like defensively and offensively. But defensively this week, between the hazard control, its physical bulk for the likes of Arcanine and Ting Lu, and just its like raw uninvested power, it can take advantage of that ground weakness. I think it's a good defensive bring who can provide a little bit of value and not be completely passive. I think Blaziken is, though, the key victory for Crep here. If the chicken can get set up and can reliably hit things, you're going to be in a good position, Crep. That's all I'm saying. Also, I say Crep because it looks like Crepuscular, and there's a lot of letters after Crep, so I'm just going to go with Crep because it's not Creep. Creep is two E's. It's Crep. It's Crep, but it's not Crepe because there's no E after it. So that's how you learn language, kids. The win prediction-wise, I think Professor just has a diabolical team with Terra Tornadus, and the fact that its stab alone in this week can cause issues. And I do find it hard to pick against it, but Crep has more than one way to win this game. And I'm going to go with my heart of production as a production nerd and take Crep to walk down the runway in a fashionable victory. Another matchup, number 6 on the docket, we have the South Bend Snowflakes and Puppy Pounds. Pup taking on Hunky Dunky, and the Steamy Stunfisk. Two teams built around a Paradox Terra Captain who is taking on a team that their team would benefit from that other field effect a little bit. We're going to start with South Bend here so you can understand what I'm talking about here. But first, Ogerpon Cornerstone looks very, 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 very good in this matchup. The only rock resist is Iron Treads, who takes neutral damage from the Grass Stab, doesn't appreciate low kicks, can also get knocked out early on, get knocked out. But Ogerpon can also serve as like a fast supporter as well in this matchup with spikes. It can get some U-turns chip there, some knockoffs. It's pretty high speed. I think it's one of the faster Pokemon in this matchup. Another fast Pokemon in this matchup being the Iron Moth, who can go in quickly in this matchup as Poison and Fire just very strong in this matchup without the Terra. Terra Fairy, very good offensively. Terra Flying, also strong, also good defensively. But I'm not going to sleep on Terra Ghost. It's going to that neutralizes Slitherwing stabs right away, and it lets it hit Yuxi for a super effective stab. And that the Sun from Steamy Stunfisk could help its Fire type. Basically giving it a Fire Terra. Whew. Without giving it a Fire Terra, jeez, it's just so good. It looks really good, this matchup. Another Paradox Pokemon that would benefit from the Sun from Steamy's side of things, Screamtail, who is going to have to be basically one-on-one with this Walking Wake, as Walking Wake got 4 kills last week. It looks like it's very hungry. It wants some more. And Screamtail's kind of the only thing I think that can really stop it on this team. Its special bulk, as well as its speed advantage over Walking Wake, is very important. Because if the Sun is up and there's a speed investment, that Pokemon is going faster all the time, unless it's like Choice Scarf Walking Wake, which it could be. Screens also is a big thing here. Thunder Wave, also very big. Wish, good stuff there. Good utilities. And it's not a great matchup, but Great Tusk is going to be huge this week. One built to get a defensive boost in the Sun to wall the likes of Iron Treads, Slitherwing, as well as just like maybe tank a hit from a Meowscarada, Braviary, or a Mimikyu. Should be the play here, I think. Week 1, though, Pup kind of threw away the booster energy on Iron Moth, and it almost cost him the game. But I think this week that Pup plays to, his win, being the Iron Moth, and builds around it in a favorable matchup to avoid having to do that again. taking a look at the Stunfisk. Hunky, my guy, loving the intros, by the way. Go check out everybody's. Look in the description below. You can see all the general managers there. Go follow them as well. Walking Wake looks so good this week. It looked great last week. It opened the season in a big way, and it might get really, really rolling here. It can claim knockouts this week without boosting its Terra, its water types. And I do think it'll need something to eliminate Screamtail. So either like maybe a Terra Steel, or really Terra Poison's not that bad, because it would also let it switch in on Iron Moth and Sneasler's poison stabs without being weak to their secondary stabs, right? Mimikyu, also a very good matchup this week. It's the one Pokemon here that nothing can like really, answer Ghost Fairy types, right? Its physical attack plays in the hands of like Orthworm and Great Tusk, but it does get coverage for the Orthworm, and its stab does deal with the Great Tusk as well, so very important there. I mentioned Yuxi in the other side of this matchup, and for good reason. It's Hunky's best check by far to the everything threats going on from Pup's side of things. It's really annoying with rocks, with status spreading, and really only Moltres Galar can threaten it. And I mean, again, maybe we get a Terra Ghost or Terra Dark, Iron Moth, and those are good. But you know what Pokemon though I brought up Sneasler and Iron Moth, talk about Mimikyu. There's one Pokemon on Hunky's team that could stand up to both of them. And you're right, I mentioned him earlier. My guy Swalot, that goober has the toolkit to get set up and be a problem for everything except Great Tusk a little bit. But hey, shout out to Stockpile, all right? Don't sleep on my Swalot, damn it. It's not the wind Pokemon, trust me, but it's Walking Wake. But let's pretend for a second it's not, because what other Pokemon is going to hold the key to the victory? If you guess Ninetales, good guess, but on the other side of it are a lot of Pokemon that benefit from the sun just as much, and I don't like helping the side. Rotom Wash, though, whose bulk allowed it last week to survive and spread important status, can do it again this week for Walking Wake to allow it to outspeed and threaten big damage outside of the sun and playing into Hunky's hands. Prediction-wise, I picked Hunky last week, or I picked against Hunky last week, I should say, and I'm afraid to do it again. But this matchup does feel a little bit tougher for the Walking Wake to get going. Because Sun helps Pup team. And while Pup's gimmick of electric terrain also helps like the Iron Treads, that's it. That's the only Pokemon that really benefits from it. Unless Hunky goes like Terra Electric Walking Wake for some reason. But I think if you're taking away the gimmicks, which team do I think plays a little bit better? I think Pup's team in this matchup, just a smidge. So I'm going to take the South Bend Snowflakes. But man, that Walking Wake is going to be a problem this week against Pup and the Bendy Snowflakes, the South Bend Snowflakes. Before we get into our final 3 games, I want to take a moment out here to talk about my Patreon, support.grum.tv, patreon.com/tgrum, or just Grum. It's just Grum I'm so used to saying just support.grum.tv. For low as $1, you can support me doing this content. I do have a $5 tier, a $10 tier, and a $25 tier, which I am revamping those. So $1 tier gets you everything that you need, that you everything in general for right now. But I am working on some more Pokemon related, some behind the scenes stuff here that I'll put in front of the scenes a little bit. I'm working on a little series. I'm about 4 video scripts written. I want a couple more of making non-viable Pokemon viable across the board, but only like within reason. I'm not trying to make overpowered Pokemon, just adding some things that I think would raise the viability of some Pokemon across singles, doubles, and draft league. So be on the lookout for that. I want to start dropping them in December, so stay tuned for that. Check my Patreon. I have more information there. That's support.grum.tv or patreon.com/grum. All of that link in the description below. Let's close out week 2's predictions, shall we? Kicking off our final third of the schedule, we've got Chicago Rookies taking on the Bundle Montreal. It is Vortex and TJP, both coming off of tough losses with rolls that were not in their favor. Luck was not on their side, but will it be on their side this week? Will they bounce back? Only one way to find out, and that's to play the game, but we're not playing the game. We're talking about it. Taking a look here at the Chicago side of things offensively. Fans of the Rookies last week, I heard them from this apartment in Philadelphia. I heard them. They were yelling, where's Goldengo? Where is he? And especially as soon as they saw that starting lineup, I think with this week, Vortex is going to put the fun guy in the lineup as soon as possible, because there are, I mean this, there's not a single ghost resist on TJP's team. None. There's nothing. There's not one Pokemon that resists ghost type. Zero. Bring the Goldengo. Joining Goldie off the team, off the bench, should be the Lycanroc Dusk. It's got a very, very good matchup as a rock type. The only ones being Goodra, who does not want to take a close Tough Claw, boosted close combat, maybe even Life Orb Choice Band. And then Hippowdon, who can wall it, but also it does end up giving it like a special defense boost if it's not around and something else comes in and try to get it. Not ideal. While I love Chicago's defensive profile, there's not an obvious spot to attack, but if last week was a showing, a powerful ice type with the ability to hit water types for super effective damage can be a huge problem. Crazy enough, I think that's a reason for Assault Vest Electrode. Yeah, I know. Hear me out though. It's faster than Bundle. It can survive some not souped up Bundle attacks. And it can kind of deter it from really taking things out. It forces it to switch out raw instead of going for a flip turn. Unless it's a Scarf, but even then, that's a rough guess, you know? If that Pokemon's raw switching out or even flip turning, it's going to want boots, right? And Avalugg is the only spinner for TJP's roster, and that can't Terra, meaning it does not like rocks or spikes, meaning that Gliscor is 100% going to stack him this week. And with Goldengo's ghost typing, I think that opens up Gliscor to go for a steel or ice type to not get nuked by Bundle this week. Very important. I think Vortex if Vortex cares for their own safety, they're going to put Goldengo in, because if not, I myself will drag Vortex through the streets of Chicago for all to see if Goldengo is not made a focal point of the build this week. He just got to take advantage of that matchup. You just have to. You just got to make sure that Bundle, that the Dragonite gets its multi-scale broken, and you're good. You're cooking. You're fine. Everything is good. That Goldengo is going crazy. I keep saying it's going nuts. It's going local. Okay? Montreal on the other side. I'm not threatening to drag TJP through the streets, mainly because you saw how good Terra Ice Raging Bolt was, so you can see how good an ice type that can threaten Primarina is. Iron Bundle is that. It has Freeze Dry. It does the same in this matchup. Its ability to threaten out Rotom as well is with Water Stab is a huge boon to it compared to the Raging Bolt. Last week, Iron Boulder was a dark type. Didn't see it coming. Don't know where it came from. Still trying to figure it out. But this week, I think Terra Ground is kind of the call here. You got Mighty Cleave and Earthquake to cover everything, and those are two really strong moves. You're getting stab on both of them. It allows you to kind of set up. Or if you want to just run a Choice Scarf or a Band item with 2 coverage moves, be my guest. You're all good. Defensively for Montreal, it's another week where Hisuian Goodra is really going to be called upon to go man-on-man with a special attacker. And this one's a little bit more straightforward for Goodra, though. It can invest all its bulk in special defense and not be too worried about its physical defense investment. That's because Alomomola is a fat slob who can take a hit on the defensive side, soak up those hits, and be fat. That's what you got. You soak up those hits, Tubby Bubby. All right? Last week, though, TJP had a more defensive team. I think Alomomola and Goodra is kind of where you draw the line this week. You need the offense. You need that. Chandelure looks pretty solid, too. It's just kind of the Pokemon that you want to get started. Fire Ghost is pretty solid against Chicago. and then that opens things up for Bundle and Boulder to get going. I think both coaches are trying to avoid going 0-2 in a very stressful situation. 0-2 in the D-League, you want to impress, you want to win. Winner gets an invite to the main league. Winner and maybe some other and impressive team and impressive coaches as well. You don't want to fall 0-2 because then you're fighting, you're struggling. You got to get, you got to go, 4-2 in the next 2 games. It's tough. It's tough. You want to be at least like 5-3. 5-3 gets it. So you want to really be 5-1 in the last 6 games. That's tough. Avoid going 0-2. Goldengo matchup is just too good though. I think Chicago is going to be the one to go 1-1 and get back on track. But I do not expect TJP to bring the power this week because TJP kind of has to. In our second to last matchup, I want somebody to go right now, get 1996 Eric Bischoff on the phone right now, because we've got the Austin FC Verdealing, and we got the Miami Palafins, and we got some heavyweights going on, because good Lord, look at these teams. Let's start with Austin here. Gouging Fire, going to let its hair down. Or up. What's that? Is that its hair? In this matchup, it matches so well in this matchup. It just, nothing wants to stand in front of it. If you get this thing set up, there's nothing that wants to stand in front of it. I don't care what you think it is. Gouging Fire cruising down the road, though. Imagine for a second, it's cruising down the road. Wind flowing through the hair or whatever. Is it hair? It's not hair. I don't know what it is. Imagine, though, he's on a motorcycle. And his motorcycle's got a sidecar. And you know who's riding shotgun? Who's sitting there with the helmet and the goggles on and everything? Frostlass. That's who. Because you think of a Gouging Fire check this week. That's not a Frostlass check. And I'm looking at you, Garchomp. My eyes are on you, bud. Defensively, King Gambit is an offensive nightmare most weeks. But this week as a Terra Captain, I think a defensive typing is pretty huge. Water, grass, or fairy. Anything that allows it to hang on for a little while. Checking Palafin especially would be good. Garchomp maybe. Even some forms of Hisuian Lilligant with those types. Very good supportive move pool. It gets rocks, it gets T-Wave, it gets Rock Tomb and Foul Play, so it gets stab, dark type moves with these physical hitters. Very good. And I see Vikavolt, I see Schmirgle, I see Garchomp, I see Overquill. I just see a lot of hazards. Tentacruel, you got to come in, bud, and I need you to just get on your tentacle, your pointy things, and just spin, bud, because you need to get rid of those hazards for your team. Sure, Miss Magus is okay there, but it doesn't like the matchup against King Gambit, Frostlass, or Snorlax, so probably not a great bring. You gotta get those spinners up, though. For the Winmon, I want to give a special shout out, though, to Landorus T, because this week, ground looks really good, but Gouging Fire looks just too good this week. Heat Crash, not great with this matchup, but Flare Blitz and Raging Fury are still options, and there's a real struggle for checks in general. So Gouging Fire don't need to be here for a long time, just a good time. Miami, offensively, Lionel Missy, or Cinderace, if for those who didn't see Tone's nickname for it, looks really good this week, provided it hits its Pyro Balls. But Tentacruel, Gouging Fire, and Thick Fat Snorlax are really the only Pokemon that can check it, and Tentacruel doesn't want to take a Libero Zen Headbutt. Thick Fat Snorlax doesn't want to take a Libero High Jump Kick. And Gouging Fire, it's its best check, but if it's coming in, it's probably going to get a U-turn hit or something, doubling into a better spot to deal with the Gouging Fire. Not great for that. But you know what other type looks pretty good here? Ground type. And I'm not going to say Garchomp on offense or Tone. I think Garchomp is better served defensively. I'm pointing at Hisuian Lilligant, and I'm saying, get in the game, kid. Get in the game. Show me what. Show us. Show us what Tone thought when he gave you that Terra Captain contract. It's just look. You get set up, and it's gonna be hard to deal with, especially as a ground type. Best checks would be Landorus and Mesprit, which Lilligant gets Ice Spinner or the riskier Triple Axle, which completely shreds Landorus, and Mesprit isn't the tank that Yuxi is, so like a set of Leaf Blade, or I think it gets knockoff. Does it get knockoff? I don't know. Can't remember. Either way, it don't want to take a Leaf Blade. That's not a great move for it. No. And Garchomp, let's get to him. That is the one. A Gouging Fire versus Garchomp. it's storied. It's a historic one at this point. It's only been around for like a year. It's a historic draft league kind of matchup. It's the only Pokemon that can stand up to Gouging Fire reliably, especially in this matchup. Defensive set with hazard stacks, maybe even a Mirror Herb to get a Dragon Dance on the switch, and then you're still faster than it. You're hitting it harder. Good stuff. I think Metagross could also kind of serve as a defensive Pokemon that could be offensive. Its typing pairs well with Garchomp in the Frostlass matchup. Like, they pair well with each other. And also, actually, the Sylveon one, now you think about it. But more importantly, it's a defensive set that could become an offensive because there are so many Pokemon that can proc a weakness policy with a Fire, a Dark, a Ground-type move. I can actually comfortably say this week that Palafin is not the Pokemon to build around. Instead, I think Tone would benefit greatly from getting the Lilligant in position this week, early and often. Last week, could not do it, did not do it, and it kind of cost Tone the game. I don't think that Tone makes the same mistake twice. Prediction-wise, you got Tony and Tone with an E. Kind of rhymes. High quality match either way. I like to think that maybe it's my match of the week. It's close. I'm very, very excited to watch it when it airs. How Tone gets around the Gouging Fire will be fun to watch, as will Tony working King Gambit around the field, like a chess piece that it's inspired by. Ultimately, I do think it comes down to Tone's hazard pressure in this week. And with the Moans at his disposal, again, you got two Pokemon that can Sticky Whip. You have multiple Pokemon that can Spike, multiple Pokemon that can Rocks. That is going to be hard to beat out. Say his name, and he appears. I believe in Tone Hendry. And closing things out, we have the Manshine City Necrozmas taking on the Arkham City Delibirds. We got the coach who loves to let things play out as natural as possible versus the coach who will never, and I mean never, miss a time to spread the good word on the farce that is Raikou. It's who versus A12, baby. We're going to start things off with the Manshine City team here. As a little like how the sausage is made on my end, I have normally 2 points for offense, 2 points for defense for each team. And for who, I don't put offense. I put Darkrai plus. Because in place of offense, it's Darkrai. He's always going to be the Pokemon ensured to be the offense. That said, it still is a good matchup. It's still a good matchup. The Dark typing hits everything but Hawlucha and Iron Valiant, which we'll get to their matchups a little earlier, but Darkrai does have, Psyshock to take care of both of those two Pokemon. And so really, it's Darkrai plus on offense. This week, kind of similar to last week, Brambleghast got 3 kills. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I think Latias can be both defensive and turn out to be a little bit offensive. It's got a good matchup as a Psychic Dragon type that levitates. It can also hit everything but the Bronzong with its Psychic type. And it's pretty solid. Pretty good. Pretty good. It's going to be a good buddy for Darkrai. I'm trying to think of if there was something better there. It's not. Defensively, who's bread and butter? Tinkaton wants to bop things on the head and spread status this week. It can do just that this week. It's a problem. It's going to be a problem for A12 to get rid of. It is capable of living big hits and getting off a T-Wave or an Encore to put you in a bad way. It gets knockoff, and Gigaton Hammer just hits hard for a Pokemon that was 70 base attack. And I just want to take a moment. It pains me. It pains me. My beautiful, fun-loving duck boy, Quaquaval, whose mind is an unfair. It's just unfair to look at a Pokemon like that and go, that's a defensive Pokemon. And not just that, but also pulling it off. I mean, Terra Ground doesn't look bad, but I can see Terra Electric, really. Terra Electric to stop the Jolteon, threaten Hawlucha and Staraptor and Suicune. Yeah, it hurts to think like that. Here's the beauty, though, in whose builds of trying to figure out which Mon is actually going to be the problem. And also which Pokemon is going to be the one that clutches victory. Last week, Brambleghast was able to impose its will against TJP and his team. This week, it could be Dusknoir, who doesn't have a horrible matchup. Could be Latios. Could be just Darkrai getting set up and sweeping. Could even be, Quaquaval doing what it was designed to do and get an Aqua Step in, and suddenly it's fast and it hurts everything. Who knows? A12, though, on the offensive is going to be fun to watch this matchup. Iron Valiant looks very good, very strong here. Cloudstire notwithstanding, it can cook, especially a physical set on its stabs, and then coverage for the other Pokemon. We talk about it gets liquidation, which is wild to think about. If Cloudstire doesn't have water absorb, you can hit that for a super effective liquidation. Crazy. Last week, A12 showed off the Ice type Jolteon Weather Ball to kill the Kilowattrel, which does have me thinking A12 does have another Pokemon who would benefit, who is an evolution, who could benefit from Chilly Reception. And it makes me wonder, are we going to see a Chilly Reception Blizzard spam from Glaceon this week? Because it looks pretty good. You get the defense boost from the snow. You get Ice Body because we can't run Snow Veil. A Specs or Scarf set, and it's like, what really wants to take that? Who knows? I can tell you who wouldn't want to take that on any other thing. Hydrapple. But one, it's on the same team, and two, it's a Terra Captain. It showed off last week as a Terra Fire, just how kind of impressive it can be. As long as Fire looks good again, but I just feel like you can get some more value when you're not rocking boots all the time. I do think Terra Poison would be pretty decent here. Terra Steel as well, also a great choice. Both can help with some hazard spam there. And I think last week Bronzong was tasked with taking on the Latios. This week is going to be tasked with taking on the Latios. But it also can mess with Cloudfire a bit. It's immune to its stabs with Levitate. Terapagos can run like Dark Pulse or a Flamethrower set for it, but it requires like some form of setup. And even Tinkaton, which it kind of struggles against this. It does get like knockoff. It can knock off its item, but after that, Gyro Ball hits it neutrally. With the amount of fairy weaknesses on whose team, I do think the best path of victory for A12, the best way to win this matchup, is Iron Valiant. Very few things want to be in against that in the first place. Again, it's a wildly designed Pokemon, and A12 should take advantage of that. I also have an additional note here. I made it in my notes. I'm setting the over-under. I'm going to read that. I'm setting the over-under on boots that A12's team is wearing at 4.5. There's not, against this team, the amount of hazards, just wear boots. Just wear boots. I'm setting at 4.5. So comment below if you think that our guy A12 will have less than 4, or 4 or less, under 4.5. So 4 or less boots wears, or the over, and maybe 5, maybe the entire team's wearing boots this week. God bless you. And I'm happy. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, God bless you. I'm happy that you do not live in an American state obsessed with online sports gambling. God, that'd be great. Prediction-wise, who is riding a hot streak as the winner of the BBR Scramble, a finalist in the Draft League, semis in another, as I'm recording this, opening the season 1-0. It's A12 has a chip on his shoulder, though, I think. You can see that proving that Jolteon is better than Raikou would be enough, but I don't think it is. A12 and who were regarded in the GM surveys as the two best battlers in the league by their fellow coaches. And we're going to see those two have a hell of a game. That's my prediction. That's it. But no, seriously, a prediction. I think A12 tries to play a patient game, and after maybe having a little restraint, finds the opening he needs and takes it and never looks back. I think A12 closes out our week 2 as a winner, and that will be it for the week 2 preview here on the channel of the BBR D-League Season 3 Week 2. I am Grum. My predictions are on the screen below here. I don't remember who they were while I was doing this. I should have made like a final note to be like, these are the teams that I am selecting as a recap, and I'm not doing it. I'm just buying myself some time so you can look. Those are the coaches right there, the top 5 and the bottom 4. That's all. That's what we got there. Before we go, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. It shows me that you like my content. You think my content's good enough to like it. You subscribe. You think my content is good enough to follow it and get it updated on when new ones come out. You can even ring that bell. You could do that. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Look out for the Patreon, support.grum.tv, patreon.com/grum, link in the description below. Future series coming out, Pokemon making Pokemon viable but not overpowered. I think I've done a pretty good job with the 3 or 4 that I've done. The 4th one I'm working on, and obviously I'm not a game designer. I just have ideas that I'm trying to balance out. I'm also working on some other stuff, thinking about like Gen 10 and some other stuff. So those are all those first looks will be on the Patreon. For as low as $1, you can subscribe. There's other higher tiers that will get you stuff, extra stuff. Also, watch along Saturday, November 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard here on YouTube and on Twitch. Both places you can watch me. Twitch.tv/tgrum or YouTube here. You're already here. Just like and subscribe, and you'll get the thing. And I will see you then. If not, I will see you next time as we preview more of the BBR D-League Season 3. I am Grum. I hope you had a good time. And if no one has said it to you yet today, allow me to be the first one to say it to you. I love you. Peace.